Hi everyone, my name is Kendrick and welcome to ENFP Mail. Today I get to interview Jennifer. So Jennifer, welcome.
Thank you.
So Jennifer, I know you think that your animal is slightly off, but can you tell us what your official typing is? And then afterwards, can you tell us like where you think the switch is? Because it's mostly correct. It's just like one switch I think that you felt was a little bit off, right? So yeah, let's get it from your perspective.
Okay, sure. So I was typed double feminine, SITE, blast, sleep, consume, play.
Okay.
And I think that the error might be, or the slight offness is that I'm play over sleep.
So you think your blast, play, consume, sleep then?
Yes.
So okay. So you think your sleep last, not consume last, or what is your take on this?
Right. So instead of play last, it's basically that the play and the sleep are just switching places.
Oh, I see. So you're still info dominant then. It's just that you switch those two together. Okay. I'll ask you some questions about that later on why you think that.
Okay.
But let's start. So you are an ISTJ. Supposedly you are an introverted ISTJ, but you think you're actually an extroverted ISTJ. So why do you think you have the play and sleep switch, like flip over?
That's a good question. So when I initially got my type, I was typed, it's almost been 2 years now. I just received the information and I was kind of shocked because it was a little bit different than what I thought my type was, but a lot of things did make sense based on what they were telling me. And so I kind of just sat with it for a little bit just to kind of understand what this type is, the SITE. And then from there, as I was really being honest with myself and just being open to really being on, I said that, but being honest with myself, but then asking myself those hard questions as well, and really being honest with those kinds of questions, not just like the general, what's happening every day, but also like, why am I doing something? And my initial response has always been to fill a question with an answer and not really getting to the bottom of things. But when I get really to the bottom of things, I really find myself having a lot more EJ issues than I do if I were sleep over play.
So you are having more identity crisis?
Yes.
Okay. But if you are blast first instead of sleep first, you would be tribe above self. So you would be more of an EJ. I mean, you are like an EJ then, essentially. So I'm just wondering, because, if you have blast and play together, you would have like the crackhead syndrome. I don't know if they talked about that. When you have blast and play together, you kind of like get like really manic. So do you find yourself getting in a manic state?
So I do understand the concept of like that crackhead energy.
Yeah.
But then I also think about like just the plain definition of having play over sleep means that you are pinging off of others before you are stopping to really think through things yourself. And so that is really what I'm noticing. I'm not taking that time to stop and think about things myself. It's like if I have a question, I automatically search for the answer from others and not just what I already know.
Do you talk to people directly for the answers or do you research it online?
I do both. It depends on what the question is.
Gotcha. Okay. I guess we can loop back to that and kind of
Okay.
about it as we go. Let's start with your first animal first. You are SI first, but it's feminine. So what is your feminine SI like?
I would say SI is, I never really think about SI by itself. I'm always I think about it really as SI and TE together. And really how I see that happening is just a constant looking for the best most efficient, sometimes not even the most efficient, but just other ways to do things to really understand the world.
And your blast is double feminine. So is it like very soft and it doesn't come across as you controlling them? It's more like a gentle nudge or like guidance, would you say?
Maybe not even guidance. It would be kind of like, maybe you want to try this or not, if I'm ever going to like try to advise anybody. But it's more of a supportive role, like for sure, like you're saying, it's definitely not like voicing opinions. It might be, I might give an opinion if somebody has a question directly to me, but I won't necessarily give my opinion because I kind of see it also as there's more than one way to do things. So who's to say that my idea is the best one out there?
And your blast is also ST. So it's the same, you know, we have the exact same functions essentially,
Yes.
but I want to hear from your perspective. So do you give like reporter, like, you know, when you tell people it's like a report, it's like, I did this and then I did this and then I did this. Or like, this is how you wash your dishes, you know, first you put the soap in a dish and then you take the sponge and you scrub it and then you rinse it. Like, do you do that kind of like step-by-step like instructions or like report of like how you do stuff or how your day went?
I wouldn't say that, maybe not so literally like that. What I did find out recently, it was kind of realization, is that what I tend to do, and so this is how maybe the intuitives and I maybe don't necessarily see where the other person is coming from. So what I'll do is I'll present all this sensory data, this sensory information, and then there it is. And I'm kind of expecting that the other person is going to make their own intuitive connections, because that's what I want to do. I want somebody to tell me all the sensory data so that I can make my own connections, my own abstract understandings. But the intuitives, they just want the intuition. They're not listening for, they don't want to hear all that sensory information. And I totally get it, because it's like, you know, you're giving me stuff I don't want. I just want the, you know, take the leap. Just give me the leap.
Yeah, I find that I feel like it's almost like it's like a love-hate relationship with the sensory, for me personally, because I'm lead intuitive, right? But I'm also info dominant, and I do have SI like in a savior state because I'm blast second. I'm play blast, right? So I'm like a weird ENFP. So I do want this. I do want the facts, and I do want it to be accurate. But sometimes when I'm dealing with someone that is like masculine SI, let's say, and they're taking forever to tell me the story from like, you know, from start to finish, and I'm like, oh my god, just, you know, get to the point, you know. So, but then if you interrupt the person that's telling you the SI story, then you have to start from the beginning again, and I'm like, oh my god, you know. Like, what are you trying to get at? You know, like that's always what I'm trying to think. I see it more with ESTJs though than ISTJs. But what is how do you do your ST report though? Like how do you do it yourself?
So like an actual example. Well, it might be that I might tell somebody all the details, and then so the question that they'll ask me is like, well, okay, so what? Why are you telling me this?
Right.
And I'm thinking, well, you didn't you see all the details, that it kind of leads you in that direction, but they're waiting for the punchline, and I'm never
Right.
giving them the punchline.
Oh, okay, so you're not giving the punchline is what you're saying.
No.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's I think that bothers like a lot of people. It's like, okay, now what is the punchline here? You know, and then
Right.
yeah. But do you know what the punchline is? Or, like,
I do, yes, I do. But so so on the reverse side of it, I don't like it when people, well, I shouldn't say it. I don't, I feel responsible to make the connections myself through the sensory. So when somebody is just giving me the intuitive leaps, I'll accept it and I'll say, okay, that makes sense. but it's never really integrated into my system until I've made the connection myself.
Oh, okay. So the connection part takes longer for you to figure out. So when you make the report, you know the connection, but maybe it doesn't happen in the moment after you've told your story. Is that what you're saying? Like it's later on.
No, it's just I'm thinking that other people are doing what I'm doing, but they're not. They're doing the reverse.
Oh, I see, I see, I see. They're doing the opposite. The opposite.
Right.
Thing. I see, I see. So I don't know if you've heard of Johnny Harris. He's a reporter for Vox. I don't know if you've seen the YouTube channel. It's like they do like reports on current events around the world. And so I think he's an ENFP. You know, he has like the ENFP look, the way he talks as an ENFP. He has things, obsessed with things. Anyways, so he was doing like an recently he made a video, just came out a few days ago. It's called How the US Stole the Middle East. And he did like a thorough report on like how the US stole the Middle East essentially. And oh my God, he did that SI report that kind of like you're talking about. So everything's an SI report. And then he dropped the punchline and I was so shocked. I was like, oh my God, it's so good, you know? So I do think that punchline is very important, like especially when you're like reporting to someone. The moment you drop the punchline, like that's when like the dopamine spike hits your body. You're like, oh my God. Like when he told the story and how the US stole the Middle East, I didn't know that was going to be the punchline. I'm not going to tell you just in case you want to watch it. But I was so shocked. Like it involved a lot of like the 9/11 stuff that happened. I was like, oh dear. I was like, everything was connected together with that SI. And then he had that punchline there. And I was like, geez, that is so good. Good journalism.
Would you have liked it the other way if he had given the punchline first and then all the details after?
No, the details first. I think that made the punchline like, you know, he went with the ST first, and then he dropped the NF at the end. I was like, oh, geez, that was so good. That was so good. Like, gives me goosebumps. Like, just like when he did that, I just had goosebumps. I was like, this is such good journalism. You know, like this is, it's kind of like
I'll have to remember that.
Yeah, you know, like David Chan when he talked about Phil DeFranco, you know, another ENFP guy who does like current event news and stuff. They said what they like about his ST report is that there is like an NF punchline at the end, right? So I think, well, you do have NF. It's in a demon state. It's a consume, which we'll cover in just a moment. So because your blast is also double feminine, do you tend to forget what you want to say to people? Is there like a bad memory also when it comes to that report?
I don't think so. I think that I have an okay memory in comparison to other people. I tend to remember sensory things. Sometimes I forget the lessons that I've learned and I have to learn them again. But yeah, I would say that memory is just okay.
It's not bad. It's not bad. Okay.
Yeah.
And with how do you use your TE? You have feminine TE, so is it like you're always trying to figure out what works for the tribe, like what would work for them? You know, like scheduling wise, for example.
Yeah, so I would say I would expand it out maybe just a little bit more, not just what works for the tribe, but just what works in reality.
Okay.
So I prefer to be more behind the scenes doing that and kind of learning and understanding things. But I sometimes, you know, responsibility takes over and you have to kind of help in a more assertive role.
So you prefer the support role, but if needed, you can take that leadership.
Yes.
Gotcha. And
reluctantly.
Reluctantly, exactly. Is it because your T is feminine? Like you prefer to, you know, let the tribe, let someone with a masculine DE like take over, I guess?
I think that automatically that will happen. I'll automatically let people that are a little bit more assertive take over. But it's also paired a little bit with just, there's a little bit of fear there when it comes to working with others because there's a possibility of judgment. And so that kind of scares me sometimes, knowing that if I'm going to take a leadership role, then others might be judging me for my valuableness or usefulness.
Gotcha. But you have FI third, it's masculine. So when you're double deciding, you know, because you are technically balanced with the tribe, like, are you able to see your perspective and the tribe's perspective, would you say? Is that something that you're able to do pretty quickly or pretty well?
Again, it depends. It depends. I think when I'm in a more calm state, yes, I can definitely see more of the perspective. But once I'm in a demon state, it's more of like protecting the FI. And so a lot of decisions that I make are, or even thoughts that I have, are all based on protecting that FI.
I see. Got it. Well, it's interesting because we both have demon FI. So, you know, it's interesting in that sense that for you, it's protecting that FI. And I think I used to do that a lot too when I was younger. I think one of the tips that David Shan told me is that I need to be more vulnerable and let that FI out. So I don't know if they told you the same or something similar. Just like let that FI out, you know, let yourself be seen.
No, they didn't, but that's good advice.
Yeah, because that's what Brene Brown's advice is. Like, she's a fellow ISTJ like you, right? And that's kind of like the conclusion she came up with, is like vulnerability is the key. Okay, so you can double decide depending on the circumstance, depending on if you're in a demon state or if it's like if it's good. Let's go with your consume now. Your consume is double masculine and it's NF. So what is your double masculine NF consume like?
I would say that it is, well, it's in the hobby position, the hobby animal position. And so I definitely see that really making sense as far as the types of activities that I do. I am very much into art type activities for myself. And so I've kind of bounced around and tried a lot of different kinds of art type things. And it's almost like something that I really need to have in my life in some form or another. There's got to be some sort of creativity outlet. And so, yeah, I don't know if I mean, I guess I kind of feel the double masculine part of it, but I don't know.
Okay. I mean, are you, like, when you have researched something, because it's consumed, right? And someone is kind of questioning what you've researched, are you going to be more aggressive when it comes to like, nope, I've researched it, I know it exactly what it is, you know, like, how dare you question my consume, you know? Do you ever get in that situation, or no, not really?
Not directly with the things that I do with consume. I mean, I can feel that definitely with FI, as far as like if somebody kind of will do or say something that kind of goes against like a value I have, then I might, well, I won't necessarily come out and say something to them because I'm still, you know, very movable and flowing,
Right.
but I might be thinking in my head, you know, that doesn't really match with what I feel like.
Right. So you have FI, and I was interviewing other ISTJs in the past, and, you know, pretty much anyone with FISI, I've heard say something similar. But when you're feeling an emotion, you know, some people with just FE would say, oh, you're either sad or mad, sad, mad, you know, happy, unhappy. But from the other people that I've interviewed, they said that with the FISI, it's very specific what emotion you're feeling. It's not just like, oh, like, I'm sad, you know. It could be like, I'm melancholy, or like I am, you know, the choke or something. Like, there's like a very specific name to that specific emotion. Do you see yourself having that? No?
No. So this is actually something that I've been working on,
Yeah.
is trying to understand emotions. I definitely am more of what you're describing as the FE person, where
Yeah.
it's like, it's either good or bad. It is happy or sad. I don't know
Right.
anything in between.
Right. Okay. Well, no, it's all good. It's a work in progress for everyone, obviously. Have you researched Brene Brown's work when it comes to this kind of stuff? Because I think she's really good with like, the emotional side of things.
I haven't done too much. No, I'll have to look into her.
Okay. Um, I remember I went to a counselor before, and then I told her the three biggest emotion that I had struggled with my whole life is sadness, anger, and loneliness. And I told her loneliness is something I kind of got over in my 20s. So now I'm in my 30s. I think it was sadness and anger. Sadness is also kind of, I've been getting better at it, but it was anger that has always been there. And then the counselor said to me, anger is an iceberg emotion because that's the tip of the iceberg, and an iceberg is huge, right? Most of it, 90% of it is underneath the ocean, essentially. So she showed me a diagram of what is underneath anger. And it's like, okay, which one of these actual emotion do you feel? And I'm like, this one right here, disrespected, And I was like, oh, wow, that's so good. I think everyone should have like a chart in their house of like all the different emotion in the iceberg. I think that really helps you pinpoint things. So how would you say has your journey been with understanding your feelings been as you have grown, over the years? Would you say you're getting better at understanding how you feel and kind of speaking up about it?
I would say within the last 6 months, yes. So I actually started a YouTube channel dedicated to just focusing on feelings and emotions and trying to understand it just from my perspective of being Demon FI. And what I found is that, and Dave and Shan will say the same things. Shan has talked about in the past how there's this desire to ignore the negativity. And, I definitely feel that really, really strongly as far as something that I've been dealing with. So it's like, I'll put on like a happy face, and it's not even just to others. I'm also doing that to myself. I'll just like I said at the beginning, it's like, I'll give myself an answer just to say, oh yeah, I've thought about it. I'm feeling this because of this, and then move on, and not really trying to understand what it's about and being okay that it's negative and kind of working through that. It's kind of like you're saying with like having the word anger, you understand that you're feeling angry right now, but really trying to analyze what kind of angry it is really helps, because then you can move on from that. And that's what I'm learning, is that emotions are so nuanced. And so, and the range, like you said, it goes, from, 10 to -10. And it's, yeah, it's just something that it's been hard to work on, but definitely rewarding.
Yeah, for sure. I can attest to the rewarding part of working on that emotional stuff. I can give you an example from my personal life. So after I got the conclusion that it was disrespect that I was feeling, that's where my anger was coming from. I realized that, if you have sleep lower in your animal stack, that you are not likely to set boundaries with a tribe. And I felt myself being that kind of person where I don't set boundaries, and I'm the one that actually was the one that pretty much told the tribe it's okay for you to disrespect my boundaries, because I'm the one that gave them that permission. So I've been working on setting boundaries like right from the get-go. Should I meet new people, or even with existing relatives like sisters or friends, for example, like one of my sister, I felt like she was disrespecting my time, and when I set boundaries with her, where pretty much I stopped talking to her for several months, that's when she kind of freaked out, and she came back and she apologized, which she never does. So, I guess it did work, like setting boundaries did help. And, but it seems like a lot of problems kind of just fixed itself like the moment I started setting boundaries, and my anger subsided a lot. So I think, yeah, it does. It's very rewarding to work on this emotional stuff, because a lot of the problems that you have or are experiencing or not even aware of you could work on it. Especially for us, we're double deciders, right? So we're going to be quite good at it if we really take the time to work on it. It's not going to be our life problem, right? So what did you learn that 6 months that you started YouTubing and really working on understanding your emotion? What was like some of the biggest breakthroughs that you've had?
Oh gosh. So I would say that, well, something that, well, here, everyone, here's your 8 glasses of water, or 8 ounces of water. Um, Balance is key. Because, but I mean, the thing is, like, with that, it's like we think, well, of course, no duh, balance is key. And we see in our lives where we are balanced because, we're like, yeah, sure, I'm balancing this, but we're not really thinking about the areas where we're not balancing. And and really you can learn from even your own self, like, if this is how you are balancing in this area in your life, just translate that to another area in your life, and how can you apply it to that as well. I would say another big thing is that, um, I would definitely go with the permission thing. I think that when Shan was talking about who has the permission, who is giving you the permission, I'm really realizing how much I am just giving away the permission to other people, and how much I rely on them to really help me move forward. And that's really not a good thing. I mean, there's so much information that I have already, that I'm realizing that I'm just as valuable of a tribe member to go to. I don't have to always go to somebody else. I can just stop and look at what I already know.
That's that's great. So you were outsourcing your permission to someone else. Like, you are almost like you don't give yourself permission to make your own decision. Almost like that's pretty much what's happening.
Right.
Yeah. I can relate to some of that too, because sometimes I want to make a decision, but because I'm also like, I'm an EPEJ. What I would do is, like, I would watch like 10 videos until I find the right video that would give me the permission. Like, it's kind of like a weird, I'm taking the longer route, right? Instead of saying, yeah, you know what, this is good enough. I'm happy with this decision. I have to watch 10 videos to go find it. So do you find yourself doing that? Like, you kind of like prod different people until someone gives you the permission that you really want, like the one that you wanted to hear?
Um, I I probably do. I probably do, and I don't even realize it, because off the top of my head, I want to say no. No, I don't do that, but
Yeah.
I probably do. So yeah, it's kind of, I mean, this whole journey has been tough, because you look at some of the things that you do and you're like, oh, do I really do that? And yes, the answer is yes.
I've interviewed other people in the past with feminine TE, and we found out something quite interesting, which is people with us who have feminine TE and masculine FI. It's easier for us to talk to people who have masculine DE, because we feel like we can punch back, because when they're being really aggressive, it kind of hits your core, which is actually a masculine FI, and then now you can shove back, and it's like, okay, and it feels more like normal, and when you get in that interaction, versus when you deal with someone that also has feminine TE or FE, and then you're both tippy-toeing around each other, right? So what's your experience with that? Like, do you feel like you get along better with who are like more aggressive with the tribe, more pushy with the tribe, would you say?
Um, I I get along with them, that's for sure. I think that sometimes they gravitate towards me, and I'm sure other people similar to me as well, just because, I mean, we're there, that we do listen. I mean, as feminine DE, if they're going to be talking to us and telling us something, especially savior, then we're going to be listening to them, because we find that, responding to the tribe is important. But I think you're right. I think that it feels a little bit empowering to be able to recognize when somebody is like a little bit more of that, assertive, the masculine DE, that at least I can practice being a little more assertive myself,
Right.
and kind of understand the boundaries for that as well.
Right. Okay, that sounds great. Are you married right now?
Yes.
Is your husband like double masculine? Would you say?
No, he's not, but he is masculine DE.
Oh, he's feminine masculine then? Would you say?
I think so. We're
Is
pretty
he,
sure.
is he very visual, like very artistic, like in a visual sense? Or
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, okay, that's cool. So I guess that's kind of nice in your family. You have that artistic family. You know, you both have your artistic outlet. What is your artistic outlet, by the way?
Oh gosh, I've switched to a lot of things, but right now it is oil painting.
Oil painting, nice. And how's that coming along? Do you enjoy it?
I do. I do. I've actually, so being SI savior,
Yeah.
that my strategy was I'm going to take a class and learn how to do it from people because I like to learn from others. And so I kind of learned the basics. And I think that's really what SI is about. It's kind of like learning the guidelines and understanding the guidelines before breaking them. Whereas I'm sure the other way around, NE or OE is kind of breaking the boundaries a little bit to understand them. So it kind of goes in a different direction.
Right.
And so right now I'm in the place where I understand kind of the basics of how to follow the rules. I'm now getting into the area where I'm breaking the rules.
Right. Okay. That's great. It's kind of like with cooking. You know, like you need to master how to cut like vegetables first before you can, and then master a recipe before you can go off tangent and try. You know, whoa, let's see what happens when we put pork instead of chicken or something. You know, like
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Okay. That's good. I feel like I do something similar too. Like I also working on the fundamentals first, and once I have the fundamentals down, that's when um, I'll go off tangent. Although, because I am an E lead, I think for me to go break the rules, I will break the rules sooner than you would,
Yes.
and what my definition of fundamentals is going to be different from your definition of fundamentals, like for
Right.
me, I might think, okay, I've already got the fundamentals down. It's time to move on. But for you, you're like, no, we're only halfway done. Like, what are you doing? Um, let's talk about your NE. This is your fourth function. This is going to be your problem area with your life, but it is masculine. So how do you experience your NE?
um, I would say so. Uh, Again, I kind of see them kind of working together as far as like the SI and the NE. The reason for the NE sometimes is to understand SI better. And so I don't really see, like, I feel like, at least based on the things that I've been learning, when I really think about myself, it hasn't been really NE issues. I would say definitely I'm NE demon. I have a hard time when it comes to seeing like the unknown. I'm not scared of it necessarily, but it's like something that I'm not willing to guess on. I'm definitely going to think about, okay, what's the next thing? Like the SI, what's the next step? What's the next step? And projecting further out is really hard to do because there's so much that is like in the darkness and I just don't know what's there. But as far as the NE, like being this scary last demon, I don't really necessarily see a lot of those particular issues.
You are still an IJ, so talk about your fear of chaos. Maybe not the fear of NE, but fear of chaos. What is your fear of chaos? What is chaos to you?
I feel like chaos is I would actually say that it would be something more along the lines of I'm afraid of these big abstract things like rejection. I'm afraid of rejection, and so yes, it's connected to people, um, but I can't really put my finger on anything like specific chaos wise. I mean, a lot of times what I find is that I do see a lot of people asking, like where I work, sometimes when there's things going on, a lot of people are asking questions and trying to find the answers to these unknowns. And I don't find myself doing that because I feel like that what is unknown, there's going to be some things that we're never going to know, we're never going to understand, but then there are going to be things that are going to work themselves out. So I don't really stress out about those kind of things, like those kind of situational kind of things. It's, again, more of like the people related things.
What about any tidal waves? So I find that people who are especially, doubling in on that SI, one of the problems they get is because a lot of ISTJ, they don't like change. I don't know if you feel the same way, you don't like change, but you go all in this one career path. Only 10 to 20 years from now, like a new technology comes and now your position is completely obsolete. But because you didn't take the time to research NE, like what is coming from the future, like what is the trend, right? Trend is like the patterns, right? That you didn't see, like, oh my God, if I don't upgrade my skills now, my job is going to be obsolete. I'm going to lose my job. That's your chaos, right? I'm going to lose my job. I'm not going to earn a living. And I'm pretty much, I'm going to be in a bad place. So do you find yourself relating to any of these problems that I'm just mentioning right now? Like,
Not really.
So you can see the trends then, and you can prepare yourself.
I don't know if it's that I can see the trends, but like if changes like that happen, I'm not, that doesn't really bother me. I'm already a person that likes to learn and grow. And when new things come my way, I'm like one of the first people to like jump on and say, okay, let's try it. And, kind of work the TE, let's work out the kinks, that kind of thing. But I mean, of course, there's areas in everybody's life that are going to kind of throw them for a loop. But I would say in general, I can pretty much go with the flow with that kind of thing.
Do you think it's because you have masculine NE, like you're aware of the patterns or the trends that's coming, in the future, and also because you are info dominant? So, for you, having the most accurate information is very important. Do you think those factors are helping you prevent you from having those big NE tidal waves that a lot of ISTJs might get?
I think it's just really like the SI and the NE working in combination.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you have experienced things in certain areas of your life, you can, expand that out and say, okay, it's worked like this over here. How's it going to work like this over there? And really, kind of just like not think of things as really isolated, but think of things as a bigger picture.
And then because you're an IJ, and IJs and EPs are the same in the sense we have things problem. So what kind of things problem do you have, would you say? And I can give you examples if you want.
What are some of your things problems?
The one I like to talk about the most is when I go to the groceries, I like to put my grocery bag in the back seat of the car. And then when I drive and I hit the brakes, all the groceries fall on the floor, and that makes me freak out a lot, So that's one of my things problem. The other things problem that I used to have was I'm very bad at controlling money, because SI is money, right? So I'm not controlling my money. So I tend to go in this like never ending loop of like, I'll pay off my debt, then I'll go back into debt, then I'll pay off my debt, then I'll go back into debt again. And it's like never ending. So like this year, when I paid off all my debt, and I said, never again will I go in debt. I'm going to control this problem, So that's my other things problem. So I do have a lot of things problem. They're work in progress. But what about you? What are your... Oh, I'll give you another one. So when I was a kid, I was also scared of spiders. So that's another thing problem, right? But I got over that when I was 18, when one of my friends dared to put a tarantula on my hand. And I have a friend who's an ICJ. He's one of my good friends. And he said to me that if you let them put a tarantula on your hand, I'll touch the tarantula. And I knew that my friend is even more scared of spiders than I am. So I said, okay, this is going to be worth it. So I let them put the tarantula on my hand. And it's kind of creepy too, because I can feel like the claw of the tarantula digging into my skin. It's really creepy, actually.
Oh my!
I can see you getting uncomfortable now, just me telling the story. But
you found my thing.
Yeah, and Anyways, I put a poker face on so that it, like inside I was dying when they had this tarantula on my hand, but outside I pretended like I didn't care. So when they finally took the spider off my hand, I was like, whoo! Inside I was like, oh man, thank God, you know. Like, and then now they're gonna put it on him, and he just ran away, and he's scared to death, and he's screaming, you know. And he never did. He never did. He never fulfilled his end of the promise, which is okay. He's gonna touch it, right? He never did. He ran away.
Oh
So
no.
so for me, that was like a victory. And you know what? Ironically, after I did that, my fear of spiders went down by like 80%. Like, I still hate them, but it's not like, oh my God, I'm so scared, I'm gonna run away, you know? So yeah, let's go hear your examples now of like things problem.
Well, I would definitely add spiders to that list as well.
Okay.
I would be your friend running away. That would
Yeah.
be me. I'm getting better at it, but it's still something that I'm scared of. I really don't know why, too, because it's not like I had like a horrible experience with a spider. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's just some kind of, all of a sudden, I'm afraid of spiders, I guess.
Yeah. What about that movie? Did you watch that movie, Arachnophobia? Because that's what I'm scared of spiders when I was a kid.
I was scared of spiders, and yet I still watched it. My mom thought I was crazy. It's like, what are you doing to yourself?
Did that make things worse when you saw that movie?
It didn't make things better, that's for sure.
No. Okay, got it. Okay.
I mean, I think there's like little things here and there. Like, I would actually consider spiders a little thing now. I mean, maybe when I was younger, I would have considered it a bigger thing, but it's something that I've been able to kind of work through. And I mean, I still have to call my husband to kill some of the bigger spiders, but, or at least move it into a different room outside somewhere. But as far as other things, I'm not sure. I can't think of something off the top of my head. And I go back that it's a lot more, it's not like things. It's not really physical things. It's the possibility of a negative
Oh.
consequence happening or something negative. It's more of the abstract that it's scary to me, that kind of unknown, that kind of thing.
So it's the anticipation that scares you, like the you don't know what's right around the corner kind of anticipation.
Yes and no, and I, again, it's more tied to the unknown, kind of wrapped up with people.
Okay.
Not necessarily like the unknown of, you know, what's around the corner, literally, but also figuratively.
What about driving? Does driving like freak you out, or like parking?
No. So, I mean, what I've learned systems that I use, because sometimes, you know, there's certain areas where I live that parking is like horrendous. And so
Yeah.
that can get a little stressful, because it's like, okay, I don't know how to parallel park. So I need to have some sort of strategy. So I've built in strategies. So I'm not necessarily afraid of that. But what was really kind of tripping me out, which I would always avoid, is people riding in the car with me, because I was kind of afraid that they would be like judging me. Like, you shouldn't have done that, or you should be doing this and whatever. That kind of worries me more than where I'm going to park.
So the backseat drivers are the annoying.
Well, and the thing is that they're not necessarily actually saying something. I'm just like in my head, oh my gosh, they're judging me as I'm driving.
Right.
And they're probably not.
Right. They're probably zoning out or on their cell phone or something. Yeah. Okay. Got it. Oh, that's interesting. So it is abstract because it is not real. Like the fear or the problem is, it's not real. It's all abstract, but it doesn't change the fact that it's there. You know, and you did make up the story in your head of like, oh, they're judging me when I'm driving, but you know, it's they're not. They're doing their own thing, right? They don't even care. They're not probably not even. They're probably thinking about something completely irrelevant, you know? Like,
yes.
yeah. Okay, that's interesting. That's where the NE problem is coming from. What about being a tester? How do you experience being a tester? Like, do you like to experiment with different things? Like, are you someone that, you know, obviously you do the oil painting, so maybe that's where you're experimenting with different painting style, but how do you use and experience your tester?
Well, I feel like that's really like my entire life is what I'm doing is really just testing things. I think part of it though is tied to TE, just trying to like make it better. But then also SI is trying to understand and really trying to develop like this guidebook and understand, okay, like you were talking about the cooking and understanding, okay, this step in cooking is really important. You got to do that one. But this other step over here, that's not so important. You can, do it now or later or not do it, whatever. And so really there's a lot of trying things a little bit differently and trying to understand it a little bit better with everything in my entire life.
Gotcha. Yeah, like especially with the cooking thing, I think that's a good example. Because like if you wanna, let's say you wanna make like soft meat, you can boil them or you can use a crock pot. There's like more than one way to pull it off. So that makes sense.
Right.
What about being a visual person? So do you have a visual memory and do you learn things by, remembering like an image of something that happened in the past, would you say?
Um, so this is something I've been thinking about because a lot of the people on the Facebook group have been talking about like the kind of things that they are thinking about in their minds, their memories and things like that. And Dave and Shan have been talking about that too, the inner monologue thing and stuff like that. And I really don't know. I've been trying to think about like what is going on in my head, and I really don't know. I really wish I could answer that question, but I'm not exactly sure. I know that, I do think of things and I do have an inner monologue, but that's not necessarily your question. But as far as like what comes into my brain, I'm not exactly sure. Sometimes I feel like it's a magic 8 ball and, it gets shaken up and all of a sudden something comes across it and it's like, oh, where'd that come from?
That's like the NE almost. Like the magic 8 ball is the NE. But for you, it's a magic 8 ball because it's your demon, right?
It's
Like,
really magic.
yeah, it's really magic. Yeah, exactly. Because you have no control over it whatsoever. Because for me, it's my first function. So it's like, mine's not a magic 8 ball. I can't quite, but yeah, I get it. Like the fourth function is that one is like a tricky one, right? So, all right. They said that people who are double deciders have problems with fear. So is the fear for you mainly from the tribe or the unknown of what the tribe thinks of you? That's is that the fear?
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to summarize it because I think it's going back to like trying to protect the FI and just because when I think about where my identity is coming from, it's coming from them. I'm not the one establishing it, so it's kind of like I'm walking on eggshells with the tribe trying to make sure that am I doing the right thing? Am I saying the right thing? What are they telling me? Are they telling me I'm good, I'm successful, you know, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? And so just not knowing what they're thinking it is a little bit terrifying, but then, now realizing that they shouldn't have that control. I'm giving them that control and
Right.
I should be the one.
Yeah, you gave them the remote control.
Yes.
You um it's almost like you have so much like EJ problems, but it seems like you do know your FI though, because you're doing a lot of things that you enjoy. Like you like painting or, let's say different recipes with cooking. So you do know what you like. And it seems like you are doing a lot of things that you enjoy. So it's not like it's a void. It is there. It's just it's more like hidden, I guess. Like you keep it to yourself. It's not like something that you go to work and you declare to everyone, hey everyone, I am now into oil painting. You know,
Well, I would say that I know myself on a surface level, but really when it comes to like the deeper things, I don't really, I think I know it. I would have like 2 years ago, if you would have asked me, do I know myself? I would say, yes, of course. But now when I really think back to what I know about myself and why I'm doing things, I don't really know myself very well.
I see. So I guess this last 6 months is kind of like you like digging through the past and kind of understanding yourself better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. um, that's super interesting because one of my youngest sister, I think she's like a mope, like a consume sleep mope. And you would think that she knows herself, but it's only been this year that she's been like, I asked her this question. I'm like, what do you know about yourself, you know? And she said, I feel like I'm in a graveyard and I have to dig like for half an hour to go find like something, and I have to dig really hard to go find like a piece of me that I've buried so long in the past, you know? I'm like, why, what are you trying to dig out? You know, and a lot of it's like painful memories, I guess, that like you don't want to face, you know, especially if you have feminine or masculine FI, I guess. So do you feel like you experience something similar? Like there's a lot of painful memories in there and it's painful to dig them out, would you say?
I would say yes, and I think the difference really between just a savior and a demon is just the amount of time, like Dave and Shan say, the amount of time that you put into it. And so someone can still have issues when it comes to not understanding themselves, you know, in a particular area, but maybe they're putting in the time in other areas of understanding themselves. And maybe something was just extremely painful and they wanted to, you know, bury it, like your sister was saying. And I just feel like for me, I have spent so much time not considering a lot of things for myself. And it's just been giving myself like lip service, like, oh, why don't you want to clean the house? Oh, it's because I'm tired. You know, that'll be my excuse. Oh, it's because I'm tired. And, you know, then people will be, okay, well, we understand, but really I don't want to clean the house at all. But that's hard to admit. I mean, it's hard to admit that I don't want to clean the house.
Yeah.
It's easier to say, I'm tired.
Gotcha. So you don't want to say, I just don't like it, you know, instead of
Right.
going through like providing a reason, you know, like you like having to tell a story first before you can come up with a conclusion, and the conclusion is not even the real conclusion.
Right. But it was even, I mean, that was what I was telling myself too, because it's like, why am I not cleaning the house? Oh, it must be because I'm tired. That must be the reason.
I see. Got it. So I want to go back to the play above sleep or sleep above play thing. So if you have play above sleep, then it means you have a lot of energy because you would have play savior. And if you have sleep above play, then it means you're oftentimes taking a lot of breaks, like you're hitting the brakes and conserving energy. So which one are you doing more? Are you like the person that is hitting the brakes constantly, or are you the person that's like expending a lot of energy and you have like an abundance of it?
Well, I want to say I have an abundance of energy because then I could get a lot more done.
Yeah.
But I would say that I'm definitely not putting on the brakes. I'm expending the energy. I'm working harder and not smarter. I'm, you know, putting a lot more energy on the front, or sorry, I'm not putting a lot of energy on the front end to try to think things through. I'm just getting through it and then putting the energy in later.
And then the other problem that sleep class people tend to have is health issues. So would you say like you've had some like health issues in the past?
I've had some, but not like horrible things.
But do you have like a reoccurring? Like I'll give you an example. So for me, I'm sleep last, right? So the reason why, like I work in the fitness industry, but even before I got in the fitness industry, like I was lifting too much weight that was way too heavy for me, and I needed to stop and rest, but I didn't, and I hurt my lower back. And so I got it fixed. I went to a physiotherapist. You know, we worked on it for like a year, and it got better. And right after it got better, guess what I did? I say exact same thing. I didn't learn my lesson, and now I got injured, and now this injury is now lingering, like to this day. So it's been like over 10 years now. It's been lingering because I re-injured it and it got worse. And that's kind of like me not hitting the brakes. You know, like, hey, you know, you should have stopped doing this. You know, you should have known. You should have used your sleep and remember the last time you did this, you got hurt. So why are you still doing it? Like, obviously I'm not doing it now. I learned my lesson because of that reoccurring injury. But do you have something like that, like a reoccurring injury or like health issue that you should have learned your lesson, but you kept ignoring it anyways?
Not anything I mean, the only thing that has happened really is, and I don't know, this might be just an anecdote, but I am, or I was a teacher in the classroom. I'm not in the classroom anymore, but I would not drink any water because I didn't want to have to use the restroom during school hours because
Oh,
I
okay.
wanted to be available for my students the entire time.
Oh my God. Okay.
So limiting the amount of water just to make sure I didn't have to take bathroom breaks. And so that did cause kidney stones, but I mean, that's the only thing.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess you did do it. Like, and I guess that's why you felt like you were play above sleep also, because you compromised your health for the sake of the students. Well, if you were the kind of teacher that, you know, prioritize yourself first, you're like, nah, I'm just gonna drink like tons of water and go to the washroom as much as I want. You know, I don't care. You know? Like, so okay, I see now the point that you're making. In regards to that, you do seem kind of introverted though. That's kind of the thing that like kind of confuses me with you think with your assessment of blast play. Like there is no like crackhead syndrome or, you know, like I'm not seeing it like you're not like gung ho, you know.
Um, well, I don't know if everybody is necessarily going to be a crackhead
Yeah.
with that energy, but I do also know that when I was younger, I was a lot more extroverted. But I feel like part of as I was growing up and just learning the feedback I was getting from the tribe, if you know, if the tribe is the one that's kind of giving me the information like, oh, this is how you should act, this is how you should behave, then I'm definitely not going to necessarily come in gung-ho into a situation because I want to kind of sit back and kind of get the lay of the land, kind of understand where things are before I kind of let loose a little bit more.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. I think maybe it's also the order. It's like blast play is different from play blast. You know, the play blast might be more chaotic, and you know we'll just jump in and be that obnoxious person with like full of energy. Well, the blast
Or
play,
fun person.
fun person. Yeah, exactly. You know, because I mean Dave is also an IJ, and you know he has that blast play, and he does become a crackhead like at night. You know, that's kind of what their assessment is. At night, he becomes like super extroverted all of a sudden. You know, to the point where he's changing his workout routine to, he said that he's going to work out at night now because that's when he has like so much abundance of energy. You know, after spending all day to preserve it, now he's like, oh, I have lots left. Okay, time to go waste it. Like this, you know. Okay, great.
Good idea.
Yeah, it is. Okay, I'm not sure if I miss asking you anything. Oh, how did you get into a personality type, by the way? I'm kind of curious because a lot of ISTJs don't delve into the personality stuff, right? So how did you get into this whole like personality stuff? How did you like? What made you really interested in it?
Um, so it was my husband actually, he took some sort of test online and then gave him a result and he's like, hey, you should take it too. So I took it too and we kind of got into it that way. And it became an area where we'd have a common interest and so we can have discussions and talk about it. So it was a way for us to connect, but then also I find the whole understanding of others very interesting, just like, you know, a lot of people in personality. And at this point, I'm now appreciative because I'm being able to understand myself. And so it was kind of through him and then kind of just building from there and finding OP and falling in love with it and whatnot.
Did your husband get type also?
No.
No, so he's not it. So now you're more into it than he is, because
no, I'm just in it in a different way.
gotcha. All right, Jennifer. I have last two questions for you, and then we'll wrap up the interview. So the first one is, what advice can you give to fellow ISTJs who are scared of chaos? What can they do to be better at preventing themselves from freaking out over like incoming chaos from the future? Like, what are some stuff that you've done yourself that you know you think other ISTJs can also do that could help them?
Okay. So I would say my advice is to take a deep breath, number one, but then also just to realize that you, as an ISTJ, we've gone through a lot of different experiences and we've logged a lot of that information in our brains. And so how you understand one situation and what has happened, you can apply that to another situation as well. Even though it's not exactly the same, it doesn't matter. You take the big picture, the overall snapshot of what's happening, and you can apply it just maybe in a different way.
Gotcha. And then do you have any questions for me about, different animal stack or function stack order? Because we have the exact same functions, but, completely different order. So do you have any questions about that? Because we're like the polar opposites, right?
I'm wondering, because having played Blast, you bring in your SI pretty quickly. How would you say that you find you are, well, how do you take in information? How are you taking in information and applying it?
Let me think. I'm a little bit slow at applying information that I take in, I think, unless like I'm super on board with it. Like one of my favorite things to do is talk to INTJs and get their input on something. Because I don't have NI, so I feel like they know where to drill. Although the problem with that is like I feel like now they're just giving advice that works for them and doesn't necessarily work for me. So I'm finding that out now as I get older, like, kind of trusting that FI is like, okay, I know this doesn't work for me. I don't even like that, so I should try something else that resonates with me. And I think that's how I'm doing now when I'm taking in information is like, okay, do I even like this? Do I see myself pulling this off? And then I question myself, like, am I just being close-minded that I can't pull this off, or can I not really pull it off? Like those are the things like I start asking myself. And I think the best way to just figure it out is to try it, just try it out and see if it works, not see if it produces the result that I'm looking for. I do have that, I do have play first. So I like to get my information from people. And I do consume, but I do find that I have to blast before I have consume. It's really weird because I thought before that I was consuming a lot. I didn't know how to consume demon. It's kind of weird for an ENFP to consume demon, right? And,
Yeah.
but I didn't know I was blasting before I was consuming. And because I thought I was researching a lot, but turns out, yes, I can research a lot, like really deep dive into something, but it's because I hit a wall. Like I got stumped, like I tried something, hit a wall, and now I need to figure out how it works. So I'm going to go deep dive now, but I can't seem to learn anything without jumping in head first. Like I have to get burned first, essentially, before I can consume. So I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if you do that. You do have blast also, like first, so you're going to be doing something similar.
Yes.
But I don't know if you have to blast something first, hit a wall, and you're like, okay, now I need to research, All right, Jennifer, thanks for doing this interview. And I'm going to say bye to everyone. So bye, everyone. And bye to Jennifer.
Bye.
And then we're done.